Hi, Soulful Mama. It takes a village. We can't and don't need to do it all alone. That's why nurturing healthy relationships is so important for our overall health and for our parenting journey. Whether you want to strengthen the relationship with your partner, your children, your parents, or even your coworkers, so you can create healthy boundaries and get the support that you need on your motherhood journey, you are going to love this episode of the Soul Care Mom podcast. In this episode, I chat with Jennifer Ally Kern, a higher consciousness consultant and author, and we dive deep into the topic of healthy and unhealthy relationships, as well as how to reparent yourself so that you can approach your partnership and your parenting from a place of strong inner alignment. If you've ever wondered how you can nurture your relationships so that you can create more meaningful connections with the people in your life, you are not going to want to miss this episode of the Soul Care Mom podcast. Let's dive in. Hi there, Soulful Mama. Welcome to the Soul Care Mom podcast. I'm Catherine Wild of soulcaremom.com. I'm a mom of 3 amazing kids, a soul care mom coach, and a yoga and meditation teacher. I've helped hundreds of women, and I'm here to help you feel calm and find your unshakable confidence as a mom. If you're ready to stop living in survival mode and you're ready to drop the mom guilt and overwhelm, this podcast is for you. Think of this as a lunch date with a girlfriend. Grab a cup of tea and get cozy. It's time to get honest and vulnerable and shift the traditional mindset around motherhood. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to know when new episodes are released. Get ready to grow and feel empowered as a mom. I'm here for you, Mama. Let's get started. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So one of the many reasons that I'm excited about talking with you is that you have had quite the journey and have learned so much about relationships and connecting with your inner alignment. You shared a little bit with me about your story with your mom. Could you share about that experience and the healing journey that you both went through?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. It was quite a journey. So I'll just share with everyone that I had a pretty tumultuous relationship with my mother, and there's a history in our family of tumultuous relationships from mother to daughter. So she had a hard relationship with with her mother before, and I can kind of track back a few generations of just this sort of like um, discord and like a lack of syncing up between mother daughter that has been a thread through my ancestry basically. And what's interesting is that with my mom, when I was a little girl, I just looked up to her and I thought she was the freaking cat's pajamas. She's tall, blonde haired, blue eyes, lean, beautiful, and she just has this incredible spark where, I mean, she's always singing, she's bubbly, she loves talking to people. And so she had this just incredible like effervescent side to her. And yet I would watch her engage with men because she was divorced from my dad when I was about 3 years old. So, when I was first formulating my memories, I would watch her um, and, see when at some point she was dating, how she would be with men. I saw how she was with work. And for a time period, too, she was actually pretty heavily involved with drugs and alcohol. And so I would see this kind of like flip side of her where she would diminish her power. There would be this sort of like life force energy draining out from her. And as a little girl, like I didn't understand it, I didn't get it. And it made me mad. But I was pretty passive. I was a pretty scared kid a lot. And so I never expressed it as anger. I kind of internalized it. And what's interesting is that that led us down a path of having sort of like a mistrusting relationship because my mom would very quickly snap.
Mm.
She would be like, I love you 1 minute, I hate you another. And so, of course, that just breeds this discomfort and mistrust. She married my stepdad when I was 7, and he was pretty rough guy and big guy. He was 6'5", like probably like 230 pounds, dark features. And I mean, like I was little, he was scary sometimes. I mean, he could be super sweet, but when he was scary, he was scary. And he didn't like me. I mean, he did, but kind of there was always this sense that he didn't really want me around. And anyway, they had two more kids, my two little brothers. And, as the years went by, there just became more and more of an underlying tension, I guess. And by the time I was 16, they kicked me out of the house. And so my last 2 years of high school, I actually ended up living with two different families. And it became this like really big drama. And then for years and years, it was always this on again, off again. You can be in the family. No, you can't be in the family. I can't tell you how many times I got kicked out of the family. And I would always come back and say, but this is stupid. We're wasting time. I love you. Like time you don't get back. And and then finally, at some point, when I got married about a number of years ago, I decided, okay, that's it. I'm not going to live like this anymore. And as much as I love my mother and as much as I saw like all the beauty in who she is, I just kept seeing her just like fade into this other person. I mean, I'd even told her so one time, I said, I feel like I need an exorcist. Like, where's my mom? I mean, it got to that point. And finally I said, I'm out, I am out. This isn't okay because it became pretty abusive. And I said, I'm not going to go into a new family life carrying that. Now, the interesting thing about this, Catherine, is like you could listen to a story like this and say, like, wow, what an awful mom, or how sad about that mom. But when you go back and you actually look at how this got stimulated for her, it actually kind of makes sense. You see, my mother was the third of five children from my grandparents. And about 6 weeks after she was born, my grandparents had their two first kids, two boys. 6 weeks after my mom was born, the firstborn son, so her older brother, was sitting at the dinner table. They're all sitting at the dinner table. My grandmother was feeding my mom. My grandfather sitting there with the two boys, feeding the 2-year-old. And the oldest one, Jerry, probably about 5 years old, he starts throwing his food around. My grandfather says, Jerome, stop it. You're making a mess. He's getting annoyed. And Jerry keeps throwing his peas or something like that. And my grandfather said, Jerome, stop it. He said, but it doesn't work, Daddy. I said, what do you mean it doesn't work? What doesn't work? He said, my arm, Daddy. It's not working. And that was the first sign that they had that my Uncle Jerry had a brain tumor. So my mom's a newborn and she gets shipped off to family, right? Because all of the energy goes to taking care of Jerry. And a year later, the day after my mother's first birthday, Jerry died. So her whole first year of life, she didn't get to bond with her mom. And even those 2 or 3 years after that, her mother was in this incredible grief. I mean, grief that really was pervasive throughout my mother's whole upbringing and the formation of that family. I mean, how could it not be? And so then when you fast forward and look at, what kind of a mom she was with me, it's like, how can you blame her? She was doing the best she knew how, given her experience and given what she had. And she really loved me. That was never a question. But there were all these other things that were pulling at her energy, taking her, I would say, out of alignment, with her trying to keep up with so many different areas of her life and really, in some ways, just kind of try to keep it together, at least for certain periods of time. So the good thing about this is that the story kind of has a nice ending. A few years ago, she and my stepdad actually ended up getting divorced, and she started down her own path of healing. And she went through therapy. She really kind of rediscovered a new spiritual side of herself. And 3 years ago, I was actually planning an event. I called it Thrive Fiesta, a gala for the soul. And she showed up. And she was there. And oh my God, she was like, I mean, it was like somebody just flew her to the moon. She was so proud her daughter did this thing. And she kept telling everybody, "That's my daughter." And I was like, "Oh, you met my mother, huh?" And because everybody's like, "Yeah, we met your mother. She's so proud of you." So it was the first like kind of a fresh gateway where now over these last 3 years, we've really had the opportunity to get to know each other as adults, as women, as ones who have been on our own respective healing journeys. And now it's like, I finally got my mother back. It's like, and I never thought I would see this day, Catherine. I never did. I mean, I always kind of longed for it, but I had set it aside because I tried for so many years. And to see where she is now, she's such an inspiration for me because she's pioneering new things and she's doing her own business and she's got a part-time job that she loves and she loves serving people and she's a healer and she's almost 70 years old and she's like I'm going to find the love of my life. And she's like I'm going to do new businesses. She's like I still have at least another third of my life yet left. And I'm just watching her thinking like wow, I want to be like her when I grow up. There were a lot of years I couldn't say that. So it's really sweet to have this reconnection now and to get to know each other and the phases of life that we're in at this juncture.
That's so beautiful. I've got tears in my eyes.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Oh, that's an incredible story and an incredible journey for both of you. Um, and it's really powerful that the journey that you can go on and that there's always hope and that there's, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So often we are born into relationships or we end up in relationships where things get unhealthy for everyone involved, and it tends to happen like over time, or maybe if you're a kid, like you don't really know what's healthy from what's unhealthy, but in your adult relationships, we rationalize things and we develop certain patterns and they become our new normal. Can we talk a little bit about what healthy and unhealthy relationships look like? You had to set that boundary with your family. Is there anything you can share with us there?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think anything that, I mean, there are a lot of nuances for what's healthy and what's unhealthy. And I think as a woman, you just need to know what are the things that are true for you, what are the things that are aligned for you. And basically, all that means is what feels good to you. Women are very intuitive beings. You know what feels good to you. You know what's right for you. Part of the problem is that, or I should say, part of the healing journey is the journey of our soul's expansion through this human experience is coming to recollect the parts of ourselves that have been shattered and scattered,
Hmm.
the parts of ourselves that were left in a wounding experience, the parts of ourselves that were diminished because we weren't understood or weren't listened to, parts of ourselves that were left in certain places or in the context of certain relationships where we abandoned ourselves, where we didn't speak our truth, where we didn't know how to protect ourselves. And that is so much of the healing journey. That is what it is, in my perspective, to be a spiritual being in the human experience. That's how we grow. And so, being able to be in touch with that to me is part of how we identify what is healthy for me. Where are my boundaries? Because, for some people, having like teasing banter in a relationship might be like fun and playful, but for someone else it might activate wound, and then that's not okay. So I don't know how much it is about like what are the things that get done that make something healthy or unhealthy, as much as it is what's the energy that it activates in you, and is it an energy that's nurturing and nourishing for you, or is it depleting? And only you can know that.
Yeah. I
So
love
I don't know what your thoughts about that are, Catherine. And
I love the way you put that. We're all unique individuals and we all have different things that we need to heal, and so
Mhm.
different situations affect us differently.
Yeah,
Um, so maybe we can talk some more about that. So our relationships are so important and meaningful in our lives, but our most important relationship is with ourselves, and um, it's the foundation of all of our other relationships. And so when we can approach our relationship with ourselves from this place of inner alignment, um, it often means we need to do some reparenting, though, right? Like we need to, whatever happened in our past, like we have the ability to reparent and reconnect with ourselves. It's just a beautiful part of being human. So no matter what self-limiting beliefs we have or judgments we have about ourselves or what our current relationships look like, we can shift and reparent um, ourselves so we can approach our relationships from a more aligned place. Um, so, do you have what can you share with us about that connecting with our own inner alignment? How can we know if we've been so pulled in so many directions with so many messages coming at us? How can we reconnect and how can we find that inner alignment again that we have within us, right? It's
yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer that question. I want to go back one step to what you're saying about these self-limiting beliefs and that need to reparent, because I want to offer people, the mamas out there who are tuning in, a framework for thinking about it. So I have a pretty good brain, but I really like things simple. As soon as it starts to get too complicated, I'm like, no, no, I can't get much traction. So, I wrote a book. It's called The Drama Free Way: Authentic Thriving in a Chaotic World. And it's about the drama that we can get hooked into in our own minds and how that then seeps out into our relationships. It seeps out into our jobs. It's the kind of thinking that limits us and blocks us, and keeps us in old cycles and old patterns of drama and trauma. And we've all had some experience of this.
Yeah.
So, but what's important to name here in the context of this conversation is that there are only three things that underlie every drama you can come into contact with. And again, drama is anything that blocks or limits you. And it's three core human wounds. And these are tribal wounds. It comes from being engaged in family and in community and in schools, something that happens in our developmental years. And these wounds, everybody will recognize because you'll have them all. One is shame,
Mm.
one is abandonment, and one is betrayal. And shame is the deepest one in terms of sort of like a darkness and how it hits at the core of ourselves in a spiritual level. But abandonment's actually the most primal one. It's the first fear. We're only born with three fears: the fear of falling, the fear of loud noises, and the fear of abandonment. Because as a baby, if you're abandoned, you literally can't survive, right? So that's the most primal of them. And then betrayal is really about being able to establish your sense of trust in the world and in other people. So we each experience all of these wounds. And then we start to have beliefs that come from them. And the beliefs, very simply, are that with shame is that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. The belief of abandonment is I don't matter.
Mm.
And the belief of betrayal is the world can't be trusted.
Mm.
And so you can see how these just three little seeds will start to blossom out into the stories we tell ourselves, our perspectives about ourselves in the world. And then we start to build this, very elaborate internal system, um, that sets the tone of our consciousness that then gets projected onto our realities.
Yeah.
And then our realities feed it back to us. So a lot of the healing journey is recognizing those. Where do those come up for you? How much have you healed, right? Because you're not at 0 point, right? And how can you heal further? What are the next phases? And it's always in phases. There's no end point. We're going to be going through these, moving through this. It just gets, we shrink our recovery time. Like we get triggered and you go nuts for a minute, and then, oh, okay, it's okay. I can come back. I can come back into center with myself, which comes to the second part of your question, actually, your real question that I backtracked on. And that's how do I come into alignment with myself? What is my alignment? What does alignment look like? And the most simple way to say it is you are in alignment when you feel good.
Mm.
Any kind of feeling good. It could be calm, balanced, peaceful. It could be in a state of acceptance and contentment. It could be in a state of hopefulness, of being in a state of courage. Courage is a state of alignment. It could be love, joy, excitement, anything that you would say has a positive vibe to it. That's what tells you the frequency that you're in. And so if you're in a frequency that aligns with your soul's truth, which is the highest vibrational resonance of who you are, you're going to feel good.
Mm.
The farther you come away from that, the more you go into the dark, just like the planets that are further out from the sun, right? The worse you feel. So in the book, in the Drama Free Way book, and we'll share a resource with you too that you can download for free. It's something that I call the energetic state spectrum. And in my opinion, every household should have this. Definitely every mother should have this because it's going to give you a scale to recognize where are you at with your own frequency based on your emotions. Because your emotions tell you how much are you in alignment with the truth of who you are, how far away are you from it. And so the further you get out, you go into anger, you go into irritation, impatience, frustration, something every mother knows about, right? And then the further away you get into more like fear, anxiety, then you get into like apathy, and then you get into worthlessness, powerlessness, hopelessness, shame. Those are those like furthest away from the truth of who you are. And so as mothers, it's so important to recognize where you're at, know how to do your own healing work, even if it's just that micro healing of a moment. Every single bit counts. And then when you come back into alignment with yourself, you raise your energy, you feel better, you feel more balanced, right? And everything ripples out from there. And you know what kind of a mother you are. You know how your kids respond to you when you're in that state of alignment versus when you're in a misalignment.
Absolutely. So if there's a mom listening right now and she's saying, "Well, I'm really far away. I'm in shame maybe, or I'm just feeling so unworthy." What can she do to move closer to alignment?
Yeah, good question. There are a couple answers to that. I think it really depends on, is there something immediately happening that you need to process and move through? Because we're not in the business of denying emotions, right? This is your experience. I think one of the best things you can do for yourself always is be present to your experience.
Mm.
If you're feeling shame, then have at it. Right? It's like if you woke up in the morning and you started a diet, and guess what? You started having some ice cream. Well, it's like, well, better do that ice cream good, girl. Right? You
Oh,
know,
for
and
sure.
I don't even know if that's really a good example, but it's sort of like when you're in it, it's like do it good, not in the sense of indulging yourself.
Mhm.
We're not talking about making it bigger to make it like to amplify a drama. But what I'm talking about is being really present to it and letting yourself go into the aching of it,
Mm.
letting yourself really feel um, the depth of it, because that's what lets it move. That's what lets you release it because you can't stay there for very long. Even biochemically, I think anger, for example, has a half life of like 90 seconds in the body. When you pay attention to it, it'll release itself, it'll resolve itself. And it's when we stay cycling in the stories in our minds, in the brain, that's when it perpetuates and that's when it turns into drama. right? So, but if you're having a real experience of shame, of anxiety and depression, it's really what I think a lot of people are going through right now. Letting yourself be in it, honoring the experience, knowing it's a wave, it's not going to stay there forever. Even giving yourself an intention, okay, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just really honor this. And then I'm going to go do X, Y, or Z. Something to start shifting the energy. So that would be the next thing. So the first thing is tending to what's happening internally. The next thing is, what are the choices that I can make to do something that's going to give me a sense of relief? Is it calling somebody and talking it out? Is it sitting down and writing, just scribble it out? Is it playing with my kids? Let me get distracted with my kids. Let them be a source of my upliftment, not that you're dumping anything on them or making them responsible for it, but that you're surrendering to the energy of playfulness, the kind spirit that your child has, whatever that is. When you can kind of surrender and relax into joining their world, you get to have a lightening of whatever's happening for you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I totally agree that it's the pushing down and, avoiding our emotions is what makes them bigger and we get further and further away. I like to think of our emotions as a messenger, like they're trying to tell us something. And so when we can hear the message, the messenger can go away, Um,
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant. I love the way you just put that.
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I completely agree. And then um, being present with your kids is so powerful. It's I mean, they live in presence, especially when they're really little. They're always present. And so it's such a great thing to kind of soak in and be in that place with them, because that really does get you out of the drama and the story in your head and lets you go deeper into your heart. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, talking about kids, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the parent child relationship. As a stepmom, can you share some of the tips that you have, the way that you connected with your stepdaughter to create that beautiful relationship?
Yeah, so I have not had biological children. I was married to a man who I'm no longer married to, but when we were married, I was stepmom to his three kids, and his kids were 12, 15, and 18 when I came into their lives. So, the older two, we got along great, but I didn't really have a parenting role for them. But the baby, when she was 15, she actually came to live with us full time. So their mom lived in another state. And so initially it was just, I would see them at holidays and summers, excuse me, and that kind of thing. And, I didn't really expect to have a parenting role at all. And about halfway through her high school, my former husband came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think if, our youngest comes and lives with us full time?" And I was like, to be honest, I was like, I don't want that. Like, I didn't sign up for that. And it was mostly that wasn't coming from a place of anything about her, but it was my own fear. Like, especially my experience with my mom, I didn't think I'd be good. I mean, I was really kind of afraid of like screwing her up or like it being awful. Like, I was afraid that I was going to be really inadequate. And so I thought, okay, I know enough. I'm smart enough. I'm passionate about working with women and supporting women, especially after the experience I had with my mom. And so I said, well, let me talk to her. She's a young woman. Let me ask her, what does she want? So I asked her, I said, what is it that see here that you want to come live here? I mean, that's a big decision for her. She's young. And she said, well, I just want to get out of my comfort zone. And I was like, well, damn, girl. I mean, what would I want for any woman? Right. And here she is telling me, I said, okay, like game on, let's do this. And so she came to live with us. And early on meeting her, I could tell she's just such a sweet soul, really, really gentle, really good natured, just a good person, just a sweet, thoughtful, caring soul. She's great. And then she moved in. And I got nervous all over again. And I kept feeling like I'm not her mom, so I can't really say and do things like a mom, but I'm, a parent figure. It was, I think what a lot of stepmoms go through, which is trying to figure out what the hell is my role here? Who am I to this kid? And so as we progressed in our relationship, there were a few things that I thought, okay, I know I can do good here. I know I can really help her with this thing. And what it turned out to be actually in our relationship was a lot around money and a lot around empowering herself to be self-reliant and self-sufficient, which is something that I'm very good at with my upbringing, having had a lot of independent time as at an early age. um, I know how to do that. So when I guess it must have been her junior year of high school, she's living with us, and must have been with us for about 6 months already. And I was like, okay, it's time for this kid to get a job, because she's just sitting around doing her homework, but then kind of doing nothing. And I was like, it's a good age for that. My former husband agreed, and she kind of wanted it. So he was like helping her look for jobs. And we lived in a neighborhood where, I mean, we were 5 to 10 minutes walking distance from every kind of like teenage dream job, like coffee shops and grocery stores and floral shops, all these things. And so it wasn't for a lack of there's something out there. And it was just like weeks and weeks, and I was like, what is going on here? So finally I said, okay, I'm gonna like step in, have join the conversation instead of like leaving it just up to my former husband. And so I sat down with her one day and I said, okay, so how's this job searching going? So, "Oh, yeah, it's okay." So, what do you think you would like? Well, maybe this and that. I said, you know how much your money you're going to make? She said, no. I said, oh, well, would you like to figure that out? She said, yeah. So we got out a calculator, figured out what was minimum wage at the time, how many hours could she work a week. After taxes, we kind of figured it out. And I said, oh, so do you know that every 2 weeks you take home probably about $100, maybe a little more? And her eyes just got big and lit up. And I said, so that means every month you're not working, you're losing over $200. And the next day she had a job. I mean, but it made it real for her. And so that was something that, I felt as a stepmom, okay, I found a place where I can add value. And it gave us something to bond around,
Yeah.
to talk about that. And then sort of the next wave of that came the following year, her senior year. It was early in the school year. She was taking Spanish class, and she'd taken Spanish class the year before, had kind of talked about a senior trip. And then it was senior year. And I said, are they going to take a trip this year? Yeah. Do you want to go? Well, I think so. That was like at the beginning of the year. Now it's like October, November, and like time's clicking by. I was like, I haven't heard anything about the Spain trip. And so I asked her, I said, well, what's happening with the trip? And she said, well, I'm not going to go. I said, well, why aren't you going to go? Well, it's expensive. I said, oh, hang on a second. I said, what, like, how expensive? What are we talking? I don't know. It was like $4,000 or $5,000. And I said, sweetheart, I was like, do you want to go? Well, yeah. And I said, then don't let money stop you. I said, if there's something that you want, money is not a reason to not do it. If we can plan for it, if we can save for it. And we still had like 6 months or something before they were going. And I said, if that's something that you want to do, we will help you. You will save some money, and, we can make this happen. And she did it. She went to Spain. She saved her money. I think she paid for half the trip.
Wow.
And she was so proud of herself, and she went, and it really, it's one of those things that just changes a kid's life. Her first trip out of the country, she went with her classmates. She came back. She's going to be a designer, and she's going to move to Barcelona. Right. So, but it's one of those things. And, I have a traveling spirit myself, and Spanish is one of my other languages that I speak. And, so I kind of have a personal affinity for that anyway, but it was a way that I could bring my value system and offer it to her in a way that it was supporting something that she was intuitively and naturally drawn to as part of what was aligned with her soul's journey. And so that's something else that we got to bond over. And, so if I look back now and I'd say, gosh, I feel really good about those things. I could get really down on myself about the ways that I think maybe I downplayed my impact on her. I think there were a lot of days when I was caught in my own drama, part of my own healing journey at that time of, thinking that I shouldn't be too involved because I don't want to impose. I don't want to be overbearing or overpowering. When the truth is probably, I think she would have liked me to be more involved, to be more present. And so, I can look back and see both sides of things, but um, that's my main experience with being a mom. And thank God she's still someone who's super close to me in my life. I mean, if you ask me, she's my kid. She's my kid, and I love her and I support her. She's in university now and she's doing great. And I just can't say enough about what a joy it is to have her in my life.
What a beautiful connection you guys have. And you were such an empowering part of her journey. That's so, I mean, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, in those stories. But again, there's this other side that, right? And it's like it's the whole range of experience. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I can see that part is empowering. And of
yeah,
course, that's so much of my work in the world is empowering women. So thank God I had the opportunity to at least extend that to her.
yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, there's definitely all sides of the coin. We're human. It's messy.
It's messy. It is
Yes.
messy. Yeah. It is. And I think that parent-child relationship, however you come into that, whether it's by biology or by some other means, by marriage or through adoption or whatever it is, once you have a parent-child relationship at the soul level, that's real.
Mm,
Right? It doesn't matter how the humans get connected. Not that it doesn't matter. What I mean to say is that whether it happens biologically or through another means, once there's that kind of relationship formed, it's going to take on a life of its own. And through the context of that relationship, we always have the opportunities to heal and grow and to expand as spiritual beings in the human experience.
yes.
Con- a hu- re- Relationship is one of the number one contexts that
Mm,
we have for growth and expansion.
for
And
sure.
that intimacy of parent child, it's like there's nothing like it. You're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
grow.
No, there's no getting around that. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think you're so right. No matter how you come together with your parent, your child, whichever, um, it's meant to be. There's something there. Like I can see each of my kids. They have, they push me in certain ways. They help me heal and then challenge me. And yeah, I mean, I have the kids that I was meant to have for sure. That there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet any mother listening to this can say the same thing.
Yes. Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too.
We get the people who are divined for us because so in part of my work is doing spiritual mentoring work, and I'm an Akashic Records master healer. And so what I'm always looking through the lens of the soul's perspective. And you just said something really beautifully, Catherine, and it's that this idea that like it's kind of meant to be, right? Because there's soul agreement there.
Mm,
There's soul agreement that we're here to grow together. We're here to have fun together. We're here to be connected. We're here to contribute to one another. And there's the whole range of what that is, right? There's the beauty and the blissful moments, and then there's those moments I'm just going to squeeze your head off right now, or lock myself in the bathroom.
yes. Yes, yeah, no, definitely had those moments. Um, but yeah, so speaking of that, like locking yourself in the bathroom, that's such an important thing for all humans, but just to be able to care for yourself. And I mean, it's part of that's finding that inner alignment and knowing, what feels good for me, which direction do I need to go. Um, but just creating space for yourself and feeling that worthiness around I think a lot of times we think self-care is this um, thing that's just, we do for fun when we go to the spa, but it's really caring for mind, body, and soul, all of our needs, because there's so much coming at us all the time. We have to tune back in. Um, and so whatever way you do that, I mean, it's just important to make space for yourself to do that. And I would love to hear, your thoughts on that and what are your favorite ways to reconnect with yourself, to practice your soul care.
Yeah. So the first part of your question, my thoughts about that are that the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your kids and for everyone and everything else that you touch in your life is come from a strong, powerful place of alignment with you first. And the reasons for that are because it's going to keep your vibration high. When your vibration is high, you're feeling good. When you're feeling good, you emit that to the people around you. When you're feeling good, your brain works better. You can
Mhm.
think more clearly. You can make better decisions. You can manage and navigate time more effectively. You can be present to the people around you and you can engage greater empathy.
Yes.
You're less impulsive and you're able to be both more rational and more connected at the same time. The space of alignment, actually, from a neuroscience perspective, has the hemispheres of the brain balanced really well and connected really strongly, where you are blending like emotional connection and creativity and getting your intuitive guidance with rationality and logic and positivity. And so you can just navigate everything better. And that comes from cultivating that space of alignment, which, again, very simply put, just follow what feels good, follow what's nurturing to you, what gives you a sense of relief, what keeps you in that high vibrational state. And everyone around you will benefit. I think so often it's so easy as women to like, I'll take care of myself once you're happy over here
Yes.
instead of the reverse.
Yes.
And as a mom, certainly it depends on, what are your child's needs right now? How old is your child? Where are they in their developmental experience, right? If you have a newborn, you might rather be sleeping, but if they're crying, you're going to get up, right? But there's still something about that that's aligned for you, right? Because you have a high value and a priority of nurturing your child, right? So leaning into that like, "Oh my gosh, I am tired as all crazy business, but this is important.
Yes.
I'm showing up," right? So there's still an alignment there. But the point is that prioritizing your own self nurturing, feeling good, healing, all of these things, even if it sometimes means setting aside what you perceive as the neediness of another one, even your children. Obviously, again, context dependent, situation by situation, but there are times when it is okay to say, you know what, I'm going to prioritize this first because you know that you're going to go deal with that better. Because
Yes.
again, all of the reasons I just mentioned about how the brain is impacted by alignment.
If you
And there's a
need some ideas for self care, be sure to get the 50 soul nourishing self care practices with activities you can do to nourish your soul and fill your cup as a mom. See the link in the show notes.
um,
Yeah, and the word self is in there, so we feel like it's this selfish act, but really it has a ripple effect on everyone we interact with, you know?
absolutely,
Up to us.
absolutely. You know what? And I love that you said it because to me, selfishness is on a spectrum. Selfishness is not just like one little act thing that happens. Selfishness can happen because we're all self oriented beings. So when you're selfish, most people think of selfishness as self absorption.
Yeah.
And that comes from that shadow side of things. But selfishness, being self oriented from a high vibrational place, is altruistic,
Mm.
it's generous, right? It's extending of self, right? And that feels good. So there's a selfishness to it. So I always like to think of selfishness on a spectrum.
I love the way you
Uh,
put that. Yeah.
yeah, and selfishness is not me taking care of my needs so that I feel good. Selfishness is me saying, you need to be the way I want you to be so I can feel good.
Yeah.
And so, really understanding what does it mean to be a self-oriented being and what's the self-orientation I need from a high vibrational state, a feeling good state, and then how does that serve others? So even if it means, yo, I need a 5 minutes just to get myself back here.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, get grounded, look for the good in things. Again, the brain will start to clear biochemically, cortisol, adrenaline will start to dissipate from your system. Your logical, rational, connected brain comes back online, and now you can go interact. Now you can go be of service to your loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned about the selfishness, like you need to be a certain way so that I can feel okay. That's definitely something that I've had to work on. And kids definitely help with that, you know. But
Yeah.
but the thing that's helped me is to accept the moment and not. I used to, and I still find myself doing this, but pushing against the moment and saying, "Well, this isn't the way it should be."
Right.
That makes it's exhausting. It's yes, and just letting that go, it releases so much stress. It lets me reconnect with myself. It's a simple like shift, but just letting go of trying to control and make everything a certain way um, can ease so much stress and anxiety, I think.
Yeah. So you asked me a good question about my practices. I want to make sure that
Oh,
I
yes.
answer that. Can you say it again? So I want to make sure that I
What are your favorite ways to practice self-care or soul care? Caring for your mind, body, and soul.
well, certainly I have a meditation practice that I do every day, and I'm flexible with it. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at night. I generally like to take a few minutes, even midday, to just connect. Um, so meditation is absolutely something that is a must-have for me. And then I have other practices. I have a writing practice too, and I kind of go with what feels right to me. I've been doing this for so long that I can kind of, feel into what I really need at a given time. And then moving my body every day, doing something, going for walks, going swimming, doing some yoga. Any of those things are always really good for integrating energies, for kind of stepping aside from screens and computers and conversations and those kinds of things, and just getting that self nourishment, really getting connected with myself. I would say probably those are my top practices, and I've got some nuances within there that make them a little more unique. But um,
I love those. Those are beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, pretty standard. Nothing like really exciting there, but all super super important.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a really, good thing to remember is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It's these little things that really help us and make a difference in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. I love this beautiful conversation. Can you let us know where we can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is jenniferally.com. So it's Jennifer, Jennifer, Ally, Ally.com. You can find me there, and everything is there. If you're interested in the book that I mentioned, The Drama Free Way, certainly you can get it on Amazon. On my website, you're also able to download the first 3 chapters for free if you want to just dip into it and try it and see how you like it. So that's available there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your empowering stories with us. I loved this conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Catherine, for having me. It is such a pleasure, and I'm just honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm with you. You are amazing for showing up and carving out this space to nourish your soul. If you are loving the Soul Care Mom podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And if you are ready to start your mornings feeling calm and energized, get the Kickstart Your Calm Morning Guide. a self-care morning ritual for moms as a free gift when you join the Soul Care Mom community. Head over to soulcaremom.com/kickstart and enter your email address to get your free gift and start feeling like a calm mom today. Sending you so much love, Mama.